Hi everyone, meteorologist Joel Curtis here with your Alaska weather. Starting out, we don't have any watches, warnings, and advisories currently in effect statewide. However, we do have some areas of heavy precipitation. For today, you can see that it's a little bit on the abnormally high side, especially across a swath of western Alaska, all the way from Utqiagvik down to Bethel, with the heaviest precipitation above normal near Bettles. And then also we have a little bit of precipitation caused by a few thunderstorms along the Alcan and right in the central region to the northeast of Tok, up in the 40-mile area. Also a little bit heavier precipitation down for southeast Alaska, particularly in the Juneau area. Looking at our 48-hour flood potential, we do have some concern about the Gulkana River. It's currently bank full, and they're getting some pretty good snow melt there. Also for Falls Creek near Petersburg is bank full, but should recede tonight. Also, we have some precipitation for the central interior, particularly as you get down toward the southeastern part of the mainland portion of the state. Looking at for Dot Lake, Tok, Chicken, Eagle, and even Northway, an inch, half an inch, all the way up to an inch and a half for Wednesday night, expected through Friday. And then looking at our climatological summary for May for southeast Alaska, although it seemed really cold and wet, the only place that was really significant in the books was second wettest May for Juneau Airport. And that was the year that the record was set was 9.2 inches in 1992. So looking at our satellite loop today, we've got a couple of lows spinning around. One stronger low south of Unalaska Island. Also, we have another one out by Adak, and then you can see some low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska. And there's that front all the way from Utqiagvik down toward Bethel that's causing the heavy precipitation in western Alaska. And so one more time, we can see our satellite loop there with the low spinning up in the Gulf of Alaska and that front moving along. So for today's weather, pretty weak cold front, but nonetheless a very, very wet over western Alaska, associated with 997 millibar low pressure system in Kotzebue Sound there. A little snow out on the northern sections of that low, but fairly heavy rain along the front. Also showers extending in the trough across the central interior, including some thunderstorms right about the central Alcan or so in the Eagle area. Also, we have a 997 millibar low spinning up in the Gulf. That's a pretty weak system and should dissipate overnight. Also, we have another, that 982 millibar low just down south of Unalaska Island, and that's spinning up, frontal system associated with that one. And then for tonight's weather, you can see that the front now has reformed and extended into the Gulf of Alaska. It's a very, very weak front, with the main system 987 millibar low south of, well south of Kodiak Island. Also, we have a 997 millibar low right around the Alcan where we had the thunderstorms earlier today, and 998 millibar low over Kotzebue Sound. And there's that weak cold front still in place, still causing some rain all along that frontal system, and 1,000 millibar low out near Adak. And then on Thursday, that low is still weakening in the Gulf, but the frontal system has reformed and spun around that low. As you can see, it's moving up. Some heavier amounts of rain moving into southeast Alaska out ahead of that frontal system. Also a trough extending across the central interior, including 998 millibar low near Kotzebue Sound again. And then there's that weak cold front, still some rain associated with that. It extends almost down to 1,004 millibar low near Adak. And then by Friday, that low is in the Gulf has weakened to 996, but the front has moved up to southeast Alaska. We're also looking at the possibility of some thunderstorms along the Alcan and also in the Denali region, as well as some precipitation we can see that that cold front that had persisted for a couple of days has now really, really weakened as it moves down through Bristol Bay and on out into the Aleutians. And then there's a new weather system forming up over Siberia. So our low temperatures Thursday morning, starting out with southeast Alaska, temperatures in the 40s all across really much of the southern portion of the state, only 39 at King Salmon. And then for our high temperatures Thursday afternoon, temperatures well into the 50s for most of southeast Alaska, 50 for Yakutat, 54 for Golconda, and then 62 for Talkeetna, probably bursting out a little bit of sunshine out ahead of that system there. And then looking at our low temperatures Friday morning, again, temperatures in the 40s for southeast Alaska, 39 for Golconda, and then temperatures in the 40s for most of south central Alaska. Also, we see on Friday afternoon, temperatures reaching 60 for Skagway, otherwise in the 50s all across the southeast, and mostly 50s in south central, except 64 for Talkeetna and 57 down by Kodiak. Now, for our low temperatures Thursday morning for the north, we can see temperatures in the 20s all along the north slope. And then we have, as you get into the Brooks Range, temperatures in the 30s. The low temperatures for Thursday morning all across the central interior, well into the 40s. But as you get out west, you can still see a lot of temperatures in the 20s as you get close to the Bering Strait. For our high temperatures Thursday afternoon, temperatures in the 30s all along the north slope, but all the way up into the 50s as you start getting into the Brooks Range, and well into the 60s for the central interior on Thursday afternoon, which should be setting off a little bit of convection with that. And then temperatures still in the 30s for our highs as you get out west. And then again, the lows on Friday morning, temperatures right around 30 or so all along the north slope. 30s as you get into the Brooks Range, and then low temperatures 40s for the central interior. Still temperatures in the 20s out as you get close to the Bering Strait. And then for Friday afternoon, again, temperatures in the 30s as all along the north slope, at least it's above freezing. But you can see temperatures getting into the 50s for the Brooks Range and well into the 60s all across the central interior, but still temperatures in the 30s as you get out west. And then our lows for the southwest Thursday morning, temperatures in the 40s inland, but as you go out toward Bethel and Nunivak Island, temperatures down into the 30s, including 36 for the Pribilos, 40s along the Alaska Peninsula, but as you get into that cooler air out over the Bering Sea, low temperatures in the 30s. And then for our high temperatures Thursday afternoon, temperatures reaching into the 60s near McGrath and further inland. But then as you get further closer to the ocean, we get down into the 50s and then into the 40s as you get into southwest Alaska, including 44 for the Pribilos. Temperatures right around 50s for the northern part of the Alaska Peninsula, but then out along the Aleutians and for Unalaska, temperatures in the 40s. And then for Friday morning, again, temperatures in the 40s as we get out along the Alaska Peninsula. Temperatures in the 30s all along the west, 35s for the Pribilos and 38 for Shemya. And then that's it for our temperature forecast. And then for a 6 to 10 day outlook, we're looking at temperatures below normal for much of the central portion of the state. And then for our precipitation, also swinging below normal, which would be a little bit of nice drying for the southern portion of the state, but above normal for the northern sections of the state.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi everyone, and now for your aviation weather. Starting out with our flying weather Thursday morning, we've got some IFR all along the north slope and on down into the Bering Strait area. Also in the Bering Sea up to Nunivak Island and all along the southern part of the Alaska Peninsula, including Kodiak Island. Then also have some up under Prince William Sound and Yakutat Bay, and then off the coast for southeast Alaska. On Thursday afternoon, that IFR conditions persist along the north slope, also still maintaining down in through the Bering Strait, including St. Lawrence Island. Much of the Bering Sea is also in IFR conditions, including the eastern Aleutians. And then as we get over into the Gulf, up into Prince William Sound, Yakutat Bay, and then over into southern southeast Alaska. For Friday morning, the flying weather, again, very persistent along the north slope, including down into the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and the Bering Sea, also the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and Kodiak Island. And then we also have an area of IFR moving up through Prince William Sound up into the central interior. And then for Friday afternoon, again, all along the north slope, still some IFR conditions down through the Bering Strait, including St. Lawrence Island, also the western Aleutians, and then for the southern part of the Panhandle. Starting out with our past conditions on Thursday, Anaktuvik, IFR becoming VFR in the afternoon. Adigan, IFR, again becoming VFR in the afternoon. Lake Clark, also VFR, and Merrill, VFR all day. Rainy Pass, VFR dropping down into IFR in the afternoon. Windy Pass, same thing, VFR dropping down into IFR. Isabel Pass, marginal VFR all day. Mentasta Pass, IFR improving to marginal VFR in the afternoon. Tanita Pass, marginal VFR. Portage Pass, marginal VFR, but expect IFR as you are in the eastern entrance area. Chilkoot and White Pass, both marginal VFR. Freezing levels very, very complex. Think of the cooler air being over the Bering Sea and down through the Bering Strait and up along the north slope, where you can see the surface levels. And then we have much warmer air stacking up from 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000 as you get over into northwestern Canada. For icing on Thursday, again, due to those very complex freezing levels, we do have a couple of areas to consider moderate. 2,000 to 12,000 feet along the north slope on over into the Bering Strait area. Also for southwestern Alaska, we do have some considerable moderate above 7,000 feet. Off the coast for southeast Alaska out into the Gulf, considerable moderate above 7,000 feet. And then we have some considerable moderate above 4,000 feet for the far western Aleutians area. For our jet stream on Thursday, a couple of low pressure centers, one over the Bering Strait with a circulation around that, not a whole lot of wind with that system. Also another upper low at 30,000 feet over the central Aleutians, and again, wind circulating around it, but not too very strong. And then a low in the Gulf of Alaska, and then it's ramping up to 75 to 80 knots as you get way further south. And then as you come up through Dixon Entrance, about 85 knots southwesterlies. For our 9,000 foot winds on Thursday, we have, again, that low in the Bering Strait area, 30 to 40 knots southerlies along the western coast. Also that low out in the Aleutians. And then we have that low in the Gulf of Alaska, but it only sets up about 30 knots or so at 9,000 feet over the Panhandle. And then for 3,000 foot winds on Thursday, we have again that low in the Bering Strait. Not a whole lot of wind generated, and only southerlies, about 25 knots or so over the Panhandle area, and then a little bit of up to 20 as you get out into the eastern Aleutians. And then for our turbulence on Thursday, because there wasn't a lot of low-level wind, we do have one area of considerable moderate. Both of these areas are mainly in the afternoon. We have service to 5,000 feet from an area of the about the eastern Norton Sound down to up to eastern Kotzebue Sound. And then we also have another area of surface of 4,000 feet over the southern and central Panhandle. Fly safe out there.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snyder, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major. Usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline. So tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis.
Wow, okay.
On the Aleutian Trench, and it's where the Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the American Plate, and we produce some very large, great quakes, and of course the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk, and then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I
a
mean,
big
I
deal.
won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know
You can't.
better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
Very good.
near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami, and then of
Okay.
course the landslides in southeast. It's even more intense because we
So
can't.
shorter warning time.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes, wow.
Yeah, at the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis, it's the earthquake is the warning. So
Okay.
if you feel shaking,
Okay.
and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold,
Right.
and you need to start counting
Okay.
slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So
Okay.
1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you
Chocolate's
can
good.
count anything you like.
Okay.
And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps.
Okay.
Especially helps kids, but it'll help your
So
psyche.
you don't speed up because you're getting stressed out. I see.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so
Okay.
if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean,
Okay.
right?
Right.
This is important if you're next to the ocean.
Okay.
If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile? What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles.
Okay.
You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles.
Right.
So,
Okay. And that was a big quake.
That was a big
So
quake.
you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
to 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate.
Okay.
And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're
That's a big quake.
evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow. Right.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more
Right.
than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's
Okay.
not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide.
Okay.
And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving.
Okay.
So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in 64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
Okay. And when you're talking about the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing?
Not guaranteed. It might go out, it might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind. But that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead.
Okay.
So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise,
Right.
get out of there.
Okay.
And if it goes out really fast, get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can
Okay.
hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock grains. So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what the risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth and how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. It's marine weather time, and we're going to take a check of today's sea ice edge, and we continue to see open areas of water pretty plentiful now there up through the Bering Strait down to around St. Lawrence Island into Norton Sound, and that ice that remains there will continue to melt and break up. Further north, the lower Chukchi Sea is seeing breaking up happening there as well. And along the Arctic coast, areas where some of the more significant rivers are doing their spring runoff into, they are beginning to show some areas of ice breaking up and retreating there as well. In the marine forecast for Thursday across the southeast panhandle, inner waterways winds south-southeast 20 to 25 knots, waves 4 to 5 feet. And along the Gulf coastal areas, winds out of the south-southeast around 20 knots and waves 7 to 8 feet. For Friday, low pressure will be approaching from the Gulf of Alaska. A little stronger winds there along the coast, lower inner waterways. Southeast to south winds upwards to 30 knots. The mouth of Dixon entrance could see some waves close to 8-9 feet, around 12 feet off the coast there of the Gulf. Inner waterways 2 to 3 feet, Petersburg northward on up toward Lynn Canal. And then across south central areas on Thursday, winds will generally be out of the east, at least on the Gulf areas, including Prince William Sound. Waves a couple of feet in Prince William Sound, but 4 to 5 feet off of the Kenai. And winds a little more have the southerly component there in the Cook Inlet, waves 3 to 4 feet. And on Friday, winds will try to develop more of a southwesterly flow to them off the Kenai and Kodiak, around 10 knots, waves 2 feet in Prince William Sound, and 7 to 8 feet there off of the Kenai and in through Cook Inlet. Winds will be 10 to 15 knots, generally from the south-southwest, and waves anywhere from about 3 to 5 feet. And across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, initially north-northeast winds on the Pacific and Gulf side, 10 to 15 knots. 4-footers around Shelikof Strait down to along the Pacific side, upwards to 8 feet south of Sand Point, and only a foot or two with southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots on the Pacific side there of the Alaska Peninsula. And for the day, Friday, winds will generally be out of the west, southwest, 10 to 15 knots most areas. Swells could be 7 to as high as 10 feet, especially up off of Kodiak Island on the Pacific and Gulf side, but only 1 to 3 feet on the Bering side. And across the Aleutians, winds will be trying to turn around more to a westerly component. West to southwest winds generally in the 10 to 20 knot range, 7 to 9 feet on the Pacific side and 4 to 7 feet on the Bering side. And as we go through the day on Friday, winds will be from the west to northwest around 15 knots. Waves generally running about 6 feet on the Pacific side and 4 to maybe 5 to 6 feet on the Bering side. Across the west coast, winds will generally over the open waters where we have nice open water there offshore, about out of the north, 15 to 20 knots, and waves running generally 4 to 6 feet. And for Friday, winds will turn a little bit more westerly along areas Hooper Bay, Nunavik Island, waves 2 to 3 feet. And as we look at the Arctic coast, winds will be out of the east at 20 to 25 knots, whereas as we do come down, a little more variable winds coming out of Kotzebue Sound and off of Cape Lisburne out of the southeast or northeast at about 20 to 25 knots. And on Friday, then winds will generally be out of the east, Point Lay all along the Arctic coast to Katuvik at 15 to 20 knots. With the ice still in place there. In areas further south, we'll see either south or westerly winds at 10 to 15 knots and waves running only a couple of few feet, especially where there is now some open water. And a quick check of what we have for the synoptic map. Our surface map shows low pressure over the northwest with a weakening cold front extending down through the southwest areas. And then low pressure, that's the main weather feature in the lower Gulf of Alaska. It's an occluded frontal system that's going to bring more moderate rain up into the southeast peninsula. And as we head through the day on Friday, the low pressure in the north will have weakened a bit with a weak low in the east central areas of state, perhaps an isolated rumble of thunder in some of the interior southern areas. And then the low pressure there over the eastern Gulf of Alaska will bring, again, additional rainfall to the southeast and a little breezier conditions as well. And as far as things go here, that's the way it's looking now the rest of this first week in June. We thank you for watching. We appreciate your viewership, and please join us again for the show tomorrow evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.